Good morning. You're welcome to another edition of Import Export Platform, Facebook Live from 3 Timpers Trade Academy. And my name is Dele Ayemibo. We continue our conversation on AFCFTA, the what, the why, the how to export to Nigeria. We are on part 47 and we're still analyzing the Nigerian market. We discussed on Monday about the fact that even though Nigeria have a very huge population, but the market is not as attractive as it seems rather, because of the fact that the per capita income of an average Nigerian is very low. I mean, how do you explain the fact that we have about $400 billion in GDP and per capita income is just $1,900? And that's the lowest among the top economy in Africa. I mean, if you look at Nigeria, Algeria, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt being the top economy in Africa, Nigeria is the least per capita income, even though Nigeria is the highest GDP. What a misnomer. So, and these are factors that have made the market in Nigeria to be very attractive, and I highlight those ones on Monday. But today I'll be talking about the barriers. The market barriers. There are barriers to entering the Nigerian market, no doubt. Hopefully, with AFCFTA, we will have been able to reduce those barriers significantly, at least on the tariff side. We'll have been able to reduce it significantly on the tariff side. So it's very important that anyone trying to bring stuff into Nigeria, or you're a foreigner, you're an African, and you try to look at the Nigerian market, be very much aware that, look, just like any other country anyway, Nigeria have non-tariff barrier. For example, SUN, NAFDAC, they are all non-tariff barrier, even though they are necessary. And the beauty is that if you do what you need to do, you will be able to have access to the market. So it's not like it's a non-tariff barrier deliberately designed to ensure that nobody have access to the Nigerian market. That's far from it. But non-tariff barrier that ensures that items coming to Nigeria are of the right quality, so that Nigerian can enjoy the benefit. Now, some of the barrier in entry into Nigerian market, number one is that, look, if you are coming to Nigeria, you most likely will have to work with a payment method like bill for collection or letter of credit. So that means if you are shipping into Nigeria, unless you are going to be sourcing your fund from by yourself, in which case you're going to be doing telegraphic transfer for payment and then doing advance payment. But if you're going to be engaging CBN, commercial banks to get the foreign exchange, then you must do letter of credit and bill for collection. Now, if you're going to do bill for collection, it has to be tenured. So, for example, in Nigeria, you cannot do clean collection, you must only do documentary collection. In Nigeria, you cannot do bill for collection site, you can only do bill for collection tenor. And more importantly, if you are not doing bill for collection, you have to do letter of credit. And the reason is because government is trying to conserve foreign exchange. And if you are buying forex, if you want to do spot, you are going to buy forex at a higher rate. If you do forwards, that means you are buying forward in the sense that you are purchasing forex to be used at a later date, not immediately. Then of course you pay lesser. So one of the barriers into the Nigerian market is that you are restricted in payment method. Number two, you are restricted in Incoterms. Nigerian market does not allow you to import with just any Incoterm. You can import with just any Incoterm. If you are entering the Nigerian market, you must do CFR, you must do CPT. CFR is cost and freight, CPT is cost, carriage paid to. So if I'm going by sea, I will do CFR. If I'm going by air, by road, I will do CPT. Now, that's another barrier. So that means if you have a partner that you are dealing with who wants another kind of Incoterms, you might not be able to enter Nigerian market with that kind of Incoterms. So then documentations. Nigeria have a lot. Nigerian import process involve a lot of documentation. A lot of documentation. Is it on the pre-import side? Is it on the post-import side? Even on the post-import side, you have the shipping document, you have the exchange control document. That's for the pre-clearance and post-clearance. So there are a lot of documentation, unlike many other countries. In which you don't have so many documentation requirements. But Nigeria, there's so much documentation involved. And you know, when I look at what government is trying to do, you know, government, our problem is likely our values. Our problem is likely our values. The things we hold so dear, they are so important to us at the expense of what should be more important. So when government want to fix the problem, instead of fixing the real issue, ensuring that people are accountable for what they do, we put up a process. So for example, someone is importing bad quality products to Nigeria. It's okay to do import process to ensure that, okay, the product imported is of good quality, but what also happened to that person importing fake drugs or fake products into Nigeria? Because Nigeria is so large and people bring in stuff and not all of them are well tracked, what happened at the end of the day? Only few can be apprehended. And even the people that apprehend them, what do? Collect bribe and then let them go. Even though they're bringing in fake drugs. Most of that, I just wonder, what if it's your child that took the drug in school? Even if it's okay at home, you ensure your child take the original. What happens if he's in school and he slump or he's sick and they have to get drug for him? You know, people just do business without conscience. But that's the issue of Nigeria anyway. So, documentation is a barrier. Now, when you say a barrier means it's an hurdle to be crossed. So it does not mean that you will not be able to enter. Only that in other markets, those kind of documentation might not be required. You know, for example, if you are importing to some country, a bill of lading, an invoice, a packing list is just fine to the good to be cleared in Nigeria. A bill of lading, invoice, packing list, plus certificate of origin, plus SUNCAP, plus manufacturing certificate, plus certificate of analysis, plus, I mean, there's so many other documents that will be required. Sometimes you'll be wondering, what's the essence of all these documents? But more often than not, those documents are required just to ensure that people do what is right. But more often than not, people will get those documents, but they are still not doing what is right. After all, some of those documents are just fake. You know, it's so interesting that some importers, the invoice and packing lists are prepared in Nigeria, send abroad to be printed and stamped and signed and sent back. They prepared it in Nigeria. And that's why it's easier for them to under invoice, because they will have paid the right amount through TT, but when they want to issue invoice, they undervalue, and they will now send it abroad for those guys to stamp. And what do you think? If it's from the Asian part of the world, maybe if he's a European and it's not the terrible European, he probably will not do it. But if he's Asian, you just find people doing all sorts of things just to be able to cut costs. So what I'm basically saying is that documentation will be an issue for you if you're coming to the Nigerian market. Not that it's a hindrance or how do I describe it now? Something that will prevent you entirely. Only that is something you must worry about, you must concern about, you must do something about, because you really must be able to overcome that barrier to be able to even get product into the market in the first place. To be able to get product into the market in the first place. Now, out of the barrier into the market, for another issue rather is Market information. Market information. In Nigeria, I think reasonably, if you search on the internet, you might be able to have access to information that would help you to be able to know what goes on in the market. If you go to CIA Fact Book, you can get some information about Nigeria. If you go through the website of, or if you go to the, I think I would recommend, for you to get information about Nigerian market, I think I would recommend the National Bureau of Statistics website. There are a lot of reports there about different sectors of the economy that might also give an insight into getting information about the Nigerian market. I've spoken about documentation requirement. I've talked about lack of information. Then training. Training is something that is so important and critical. Is any of you calling people inside? Training is something that is so critical and so important. It's important because training basically helps you bridge the gap, the knowledge gap. Training basically helps you bridge the knowledge gap. Training basically helps you bridge the knowledge gap. And the knowledge gap bridged by training basically helps you to be able to ensure that at the end of the day, you minimize your error rate. You minimize your error rate. You minimize your error rate. Minimizing your error rate is extremely important because you really cannot avoid error. I mean, to err is human, so you really cannot avoid error. But when you have learned enough, you can minimize it. Because when you minimize it, then it reduces the chance of losses. Because the more the error you make, the more the extra cost you incur. And the more the extra cost you incur, the more the business moves towards losses or becoming altogether unprofitable. So if you are going to be able to significantly reduce the barrier into the market, you might have to deal with issue of knowledge. And when I talk about documentation, it's knowledge issue. Because if you don't know about those documents, for example, do you know some people import into Nigeria, the good get into Nigeria before they realize that they need to open for them. Can you imagine? And for them is a statutory document that must be processed before you import into Nigeria. So if someone is importing to Nigeria and you only got to know about the fact that you will need for them when the good arrive in Nigeria, that's a huge knowledge gap, and that can be very fatal because it can actually make you to lose the money. It can actually help make you to lose the money. That knowledge gap can help make you to lose the money because the good can be seized, confiscated altogether. The good can be seized, confiscated altogether. So it makes you lose money. Why? Knowledge gap. What are other barriers in entering into Nigerian market? You need to be able to understand the fact the product you are bringing in, does it have quota or special tariff? You need to check that. Some products have additional levy, additional tariff, additional taxes, some have quota. Some require licensing. Some require permits. So the product you are bringing in, does it require licensing? Does it require permit? If it requires license, if it requires permit, sorry. That's a barrier you have to cross. That's a barrier you have to cross. That is a barrier that you have to cross in entering the Nigerian market. Foreign government attitude. Generally in Nigeria, I'm not sure the government have a wrong attitude towards you importing anything as long as what you're bringing is not illegal. But you might have issue with the public. Being able to accept your product. You must define your market and try to understand the way the people you are trying to target thinks, so that you don't bring in stuff that the people you are targeting will not buy. Transportation and packaging requirement. That's another barrier you have to cross depending on what you are bringing in, especially if it's drug. Packaging requirement, labeling requirement. After sales service. Risk of moving it by road. Challenge of distribution within the country are all what you have to focus on in entering into Nigerian market. So in entering into Nigerian market, basically, like I said, there are barriers that you must be aware of. Some of the barriers are another issue of, you need to also understand the fact that there are issues at the Nigerian port. Those issues at the Nigerian port will make you to incur demurrage. Demurrage is the fee paid for the usage of container beyond the free period while container are in the custody of the shipping line. Demurrage is the fee paid for the usage of container beyond the free period while the container is in the custody of the shipping line. So you might find yourself incurring some demurrage. You might find yourself incurring some demurrage. You might find yourself incurring some demurrage. And that tends to increase the cost. That tends to increase the cost of getting your goods into the country. That tends to increase the cost of getting your goods into the country. If you are bringing in a product that is regulated, it's extremely important that you get the required permit. I've said it before. If you are bringing in food, drug, cosmetics, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control in Nigeria is of importance to you. That's a barrier to be crossed. If I'm bringing in finished product, Standard Organization of Nigeria is a barrier you have to cross. Finished product. If you are bringing in power-related equipment, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission is a barrier you have to cross. It's a barrier you have to cross. Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission is a barrier you have to cross. If you are bringing in petroleum product, Department of Petroleum Resources is a barrier you have to cross. It's a barrier you have to cross. It's a barrier you have to cross. If you are bringing in fish-related product, getting a permit from Department of Fishery is a barrier you have to cross. That's a barrier you have to cross. These are different barriers in Nigeria, in getting stuff into Nigeria. Some of those barriers are necessary to control what is coming in. Some of them are necessary for government to be able to regulate, to control quality, and to manage the rate at which you consume some of these items. Why? Protecting the economy. Why? Generating income. If there is one thing Nigerian government need now, it is income. Income. So generating income is something very crucial and important and essential that needs to be also taken into consideration. Income. So these are barriers. Now, but let me just read generally. If you are trying to enter into any export market, generally, there are internal controllable dimension of barriers, and there are foreign non-controllable barriers, and there are local non-controllable barriers. Local non-controllable barriers. So the internal controllable barriers are communication with your foreign unit as a business, lack of export training or experience and skills, lack of market information, controlling international activities, documentation requirement, transportation and packaging, providing services, higher foreign risk, which is higher than domestic market risk. Then the foreign non-controllable barriers, foreign government attitude, foreign public attitude, trade barriers like licensing, tariff, quota. The local controllable barrier, local controllable barriers, local non-controllable barriers, financing, raising finance, and getting assistance from home government. They are local issue, but they are not within your control. And you know what? All these contribute to capacity and ability of a business to be able to enter into the export market. All these contribute to the capacity and ability of a business to be able to enter into the export market. I'll continue in the evening, and in the evening we are going to be discussing how to overcome the market barriers. How to overcome the market barriers. That's what we'll be discussing in the evening. Thank you very much for listening. See you in the evening, and bye for now.